All right, everybody, welcome back. Good afternoon. We got more tight ends to take a look at, and now we're down to I'd call them like mid-level starters. You'd give them a decent sized contract and you'd have decent expectations for them, but you're not getting anything over the top. You're not going to get anything super special. It's just going to be something that can play 30, 35 snaps a game, maybe a little bit more, and you're good with it. Typically not the most athletic players, typically not the most well-rounded players, but players that are capable. And it's a varied bunch this time, actually. This group, three players, but all three are very, very different from each other. And I could see the Seahawks going this way. If they like AJ Barner, but maybe they don't love him and they want to hedge their bet a little bit, get another viable tight end on the team while making sure that they're covered for both scenarios. Where if AJ Barner breaks out in a big way, you have the other guy to provide the tight end two stuff. And if he doesn't and he's just a decent player, you have a veteran of some proven track record who can fill in the blank. Okay. So first guy we're going to look at here is Mike Gesicki. Mike Gesicki, been around the league these last few years, was kind of quiet for a little bit there. Seemed like he was maybe fading out of the league. He's going to turn 30 in October, so he is getting near the end of his physical prime theoretically. But last year was kind of a resurgence for him. After 2 years of lackluster production, he went to the Bengals and he had one of his better seasons. 665 yards, 65 catches. He wasn't as good as he was during his best years in Miami, but he was a good player. And he's showing signs that he still has a little bit left. He had more production last year than he did in the previous 2 years combined. Now, he was working with one of the best quarterbacks in the league in Joe Burrow, and that obviously helps. But he did show that he could still be a starting caliber tight end in this league. He wasn't really a full-time starter for the Bengals, but he played a good amount. So I think that I think it would be fine to look at him in that context. PFF thought he was quite good last year, 71.5. That's well above average for tight ends. And it's also a big improvement over last year where he was in the bottom six for tight ends. So that kind of shows you the discrepancy between what he was looking like going into 2024 and what he looks like coming out. Now, as a blocker, it's a little bit of a mixed bag. I wouldn't expect great things. He was graded okay this most recent season. He was graded pretty decently as a run blocker, and he was graded forgettably as a pass blocker. Not that it matters when he only has 11 pass blocking snaps. But I guess the thing to note here would be he's not asked to block a lot. The Bengals did not have him block very much. You'd probably want to do the same if you're signing him. The previous year when he was on the Patriots, his run blocking grade was abominable on much more attempts. So, again, it's PFF. I know they're not going to be perfect, but Gesicki has never had any kind of a reputation or a standing as a good blocker. So if you sign Gesicki, you're probably getting somebody like Jimmy Graham, somebody who doesn't block that well, somebody who can't block that well, and ultimately just somebody who is there to be a receiver. So you're putting a lot on AJ Barner's plate here. Now the money, they say 1 year deal, 6.7 million. I could see that. I could definitely see that. He is getting old. It is one good season after two lackluster ones, so I don't think we need to go crazy with it. But 1 year, 6.7 million for Gesicki. Okay, I guess. I don't love the fit for the Seahawks, but in general, I think it's a workable idea. Next guy, Tommy Tremble. And I remember this guy in the draft. I remember looking at this guy in the draft a few years ago. I remember trying to figure out how this was going to work in the NFL, and I kind of liked what I saw. So far, it's been a big bundle of frustration and disappointment. The good news is he's not even turned 25 yet, so he might be a much better player if you give him some time. He might end up being a much better player in even a couple of years from now. We might be asking a little too much too soon of him, but so far, as a receiver, he has been basically a non-factor. He's been much far below the standard of a typical starting tight end in this league. He gives you about a catch and a half a game, and he's not very efficient. He's not very effective with the ball in his hands, yards after the catch. It's just all kind of like whatever. Now, the upshot is he's been on the Panthers. The Panthers have had problems at the quarterback spot. I know Bryce Young was playing a little bit better last year, but he has not really had a good quarterback yet. So there's that. But here's the thing. When Tommy Tremble came out of college, it wasn't supposed to be the pass catching ability that was going to drive him anyway. It was the blocking. And what I've seen, what I've heard, is that that part of his game has not really come along so far. He's not that blocker. Now, if you look at Pro Football Focus, they grade him this most recent year quite poorly, right near the bottom of the league, 54.4. He's, according to them, an average, capable, competent run blocker, but a miserable pass protector. Now, the pass protection's whatever. He's only doing that about twice a game, 2 to 3 times a game. Very small sample size. Previous year, 2023, he actually played the full season. Again, he was graded very poorly. His run blocking grade was really bad. Pass blocking grade was decent, but again, it's so few reps, it doesn't matter. It's barely more than 1 rep a game. And if you look at his career, you can see he's never really been a good run blocker, which is the important one. There was 1 year where he was graded really good as a pass blocker, but that looks like a fluke. And it was on 10 reps, so who even cares? That's not moving the needle. So in no way has Tommy Tremble panned out. He's been a pretty, as far as third round picks go, he's been a pretty big bust, it seems to me. And I think that his youth and his pedigree is going to get him paid a little bit more than you might expect. I don't know if I totally buy Spotrac giving him the multi-year deal. They have 2 years, $11.5 million. That's $5.8 million. So that would be kind of the mid-level to lower-level starter territory. I'm not really buying that anybody's going to sign this guy to be a starter. I think you clearly sign him as a 1-year prove-it guy, a 1-year backup to see if he can get something better out of him. Because to me, what we've seen from him so far is not good enough. What we've seen from him so far is a pretty forgettable player in all regards. What is he good at so far? Not really much. Okay, one more guy for this video, and this is another one that is in a very different spot than these first two guys, Zach Ertz. Zach Ertz, longtime Philadelphia Eagle, won a Super Bowl with the Eagles, made 3 Pro Bowls with the Eagles, went to Arizona for a couple of seasons, got hurt, didn't play full seasons, didn't quite look so... it didn't look great, and then last year he had a nice little bounce-back year with Washington, played all 17 games, 650 yards, not one of his best seasons, but one of his best seasons in a little while, and there's life. But careful, he's going to turn 35 in November, so halfway through the season, you're going to have a 35-year-old tight end with big miles on his body. This guy's played over 100, by the time you get to that point, he's going to be over 170 games. So, proceed with caution, but he is one of the better pass-catching tight ends of his era, and he still has something left. Just be cautious with what that something might be. So, the Zach Ertz we saw in 2022 or 2023 could easily be the Zach Ertz you get in 2025. And for whatever it's worth, PFF was still not big on his 2024. For assorted reasons, which should be pretty obvious when you consider his age and the likely siloing of his value in the league. He was graded as the 25th best tight end in the league out of 37. And at his age, he's only going to get worse, and he's probably going to get worse quickly, if we're being honest here. So proceed with caution. It is worth noting that in 2023, he was the worst ranked tight end in the league, 40th out of 40. So he did improve massively in 2024, but we still have to be aware of the fact that this is already not a great tight end. And the thing about a cliff is that it's not a gentle decline down. It's fall off, and it's just a race to the bottom. Blocking wise, the PFF, let's just, take what they have to give. They thought he was a terrible run blocker, but a decent pass blocker, but not even one pass blocking rep a game. The run blocking is what's important here because that's what he actually is doing on a consistent basis. And if you take PFF at their word, he's really bad at it. Year before that was also graded very poorly at run blocking, or, well, not very poorly, but poorly. And pass blocking was, again, meaningless because it's not enough reps, but also really, really bad. So, generally speaking, I think blocking at the tight end position is becoming a pretty rare commodity. But you're trying to find somebody competent, right? You do have this Clint Kubiak offense you're trying to run, and it requires certain things. You hope Barner can do some of it, but you don't want to bet everything on Barner becoming an elite tight end blocker. Now, with everything I just said, Zach Ertz is projected to get a 1 year, $5.25 million deal. So $5.3 million a year, call it. There is a little bit of a tax you're paying because he is such a high pedigree player, former second round pick, former 3-time Pro Bowler, former Super Bowl champion, coming off a very productive year. So there's a tax here you have to pay that you don't want to pay, but if you want a player of this name recognition, that's what it costs. So given that, this seems about right. If the name recognition doesn't come through for him, I think he's going to get less than this. It's going to be like 1 year, $4 million, and he's going to have to go year to year at this point because of his age. But that's it for the mid-level starter tight ends. Let me know what you think of these three. Let me know if anything stands out to you. Let me know if you like anything. I will see you guys later. Go Hawks.